Hello, Modern here. In today's video I will be taking a preview look at Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, which is an upcoming CRPG slated for release on the 7th of December this year. The devs gave me access to the beta build and granted me the blessing of showing you some gameplay and what you can expect from the game once it's fully released. Now my first impression of this one was really solid. I will compare this one a little bit to Baldur's Gate 3 since I covered this one on this channel quite extensively, but it's also something completely unique. It doesn't use the same dice system, it doesn't use the same grid system, and you have cover, full cover and half cover. And the overall gameplay feels more like an XCOM with a CRPG focus. Now this brings me to three topics. The first one being combat, customization of weapons and how a character progresses. The second one is the exploration factor, because we are looking at a very large world. What can we expect from this? And the last one is story, lore and the companions, and the world overall. Now for the combat, as mentioned before, we are looking at a grid system with XCOM-like mechanics. We have the 100 dice system, so percentage-based rolls. You can use a variety of different tools to aid you in combat, like for example grenades. You have frag grenades, fire grenades, gas grenades, you have stun grenades, there's a ton to choose from. You have your med kits, you have your stim boosters that improve your performance in combat, and then you also have the abilities of your specific characters. Those are determined by the doctrines or the classes in this game. In the beta there's currently only 4 base classes, so the tier 1 classes. Once you finish those, you can dibble into the advanced classes or the tier 2 classes. There is currently 3 available in the beta, which is fairly limiting. However, there is promise to be more added to the game once the game fully releases, so we are probably looking at 5 or 6 base and 5 or 6 advanced classes, but that's not confirmed. However, even with a limited arrangement of classes, I see a lot of customization depth here, because you can progress differently with different characters despite having the same doctrine. One can be a sniper, one can specialize in assault rifles, one can be more of a support role, and others can tank a little bit more damage. All of those can be the same doctrine. It just depends on what perks and abilities you choose. This combined with the weapons you access in the game, which progress nicely throughout the whole adventure. So you will find assault rifles, flamethrowers, you will find different kinds of pistols, sniper rifles, you will find bolters, machine guns and so on and so forth. And there is also a ton of melee weapons you can choose from, which also have different abilities attached to them. Some will add your psi modifier, some will be more focused around AoE, some will be more focused around single target damage, some will have more penetration, some will have more chance to negate the dodge chance of enemies. So the flexibility and build depth of a character also depends on the loadout they are rocking, which, like I said, heavily reminds me of XCOM. Gear plays a massive role in this game, not just because this weapon has 1+ damage, but because they have special abilities tied to them, which gives you access to different spells. Looking at the Psyker specifically, you will see that there is a multitude of staffs you can pick and choose and equip them with, to access a chain lightning ability, to access a lifesteal single target damaging ability, a CC ability, a guaranteed crit, so there is a ton of options here. So throughout my playtime, I had quite a few different characters in my party despite not choosing different characters, because I just changed their loadout. Something else that adds to progression, not specifically character progression, but something that's equally important, because there are sections in the game after reaching chapter 2 and progressing through a city, you are going to access the star map. So you're going to warp travel between systems and then explore different planets. This, however, also leads to encounters in space. So you also have your ship and ship combat attached to this. Your ship also has a specific doctrine-like system, a skill tree, so you can customize how your ship functions. You also have equipment that you can buy and equip for your ship, so you can modify how your ship behaves in space, what weapons are available, how it maneuvers, how much shield it has, and so on and so forth. So that's also pretty nice. And lastly, you can also manage your trade empire. You are a rogue trader, which means you don't actually need to sell stuff. You have a massive amount of wealth, and this wealth can be increased through exploring different systems, building up planets, improving your standing in reputation with different factions, and you trade with those factions through your standing, which is called profit factor. And this brings me to something else. How do you acquire equipment? Specific mini bosses or rare encounters, secrets, side quests, all of those also provide you with something. However, most of the really good equipment is found through trading. So you're going to have to engage with the system. It's like managing a trading empire without having to always look at the map. You walk up to a trader, give them stuff for reputation, and then you just buy everything that unlocks. Don't have the profit factor? go to the star map, explore some planets, go back and buy the weapon or armor you are going to want to have. So, since I already mentioned exploration, let's talk about that next. The game has a quest log, but I never really felt like I needed it. The first 25 hours of the game are mostly linear. You walk through a map, you explore a small section of the planet or the space station, you have a few fights, and then you move on. Some NPCs are named, so you can talk to them and they will give you hints, so you can find some stashes and some side quests that are usually not in your face, but most of the stuff is tied to the main quest. After reaching around 25 hours, the star map opens up, so you can now explore different planets and different ships and space stations and so on and so forth, with different riddles, with traps, with encounters that are usually pretty tough, and your space encounters. So at this point, it opens up and is partially open world. However, the maps are not interconnected. You always only explore a small section of the current location. There's a ton of loading screens. It's not like Baldur's Gate 3, where we have a massive dungeon or a massive map. Now, do I see this as a problem? The immersion suffers a little bit, but it also opens up the possibility to just travel vast distances without having to walk through a city where nothing happens. So at this point, I'm thinking more about a mission-based system than a CRPG party adventure system. There are a few instances where I can remember I was exploring a map and found some side quests. One neat little thing that I found in chapter 1 was a side quest that threw a text-based section at me, which I found very enjoyable, gave everything a little bit of variation, and made me want to explore more. But like I said, just one section in 25 hours. So I'm not quite sure if this one is found more often later or not, but it's pretty neat when it does come up. And there's also your companions, which have optional side quests. Those side quests explore a bit more lore in the game, give you more exposition, give your companions a lot more character, and are usually a pleasurable experience. I found them pretty captivating and really enjoyed my time doing those quests. Especially getting to know those characters felt really amazing. Dialogue is fresh, each character is unique, has a ton of dialogue options that are just for flavor. So for those of you that want a little bit more lore, a little bit more knowledge about those characters, you're golden. There's a ton. Now, and speaking of lore and, well, text, first, there is basically no voice acting in the game. So you have massive text blocks that you have to read, some of which are really tough nuts to crack. Some characters use very demanding English, so I'm not a native speaker. I understood what was written here, but the Masters of Whispers uses some really rare vocabulary and sentences that span like 50 to 60 words. Those were kind of hard to comprehend. So for those of you that are not proficient in English, it's a tough game to understand. Some of it, not all of it. Most of the characters are easy to understand. There are just some outliers, like the Master of Whispers. And like I said, there is no voice acting, so you are going to need to read a lot. It's more like a book, especially the beginning. The beginning was really slow. So if you found Baldur's Gate to be slow, this game is slower, like much slower. Like the first hour of the game has a little bit of combat and a ton of dialogue and exposition. It's like 90% reading. So if you're not into this, going to be hard to get through it. But after a certain point, it transitions into combat after combat after combat with a little bit of exposition and dialogue in between. Just the start is a little bit too much. So if a game starts with exposition like this, I would much rather see a cutscene that explains everything and gives you some insight into the world, and then it eases you into the dialogue. But right now I found it a little bit too much. But the rest of the game, the exploration, the combat, amazing. Now one more thing, the game has adjustable difficulty. So there's two base difficulties, there's core and there's normal. I played on core and found the game relatively easy. There was one counter where I thought I was going to lose, but I managed to get through it. I think the core difficulty speaks more to the audience of normal, and normal is more like easy. But for those of you that want a harder difficulty, I think they are going to add a hard one and a very hard one. But you can also adjust and micro manage your difficulty settings yourself. So there are sliders for basically everything: hit chance of enemies, defenses, AI complexity, and so on and so forth. So that's a very good addition. Now, those are my thoughts and my insight into the game. If you liked this video, please leave a like. If you have any questions, ask them down below. You can also subscribe if you haven't already, and join the channel membership or leave a donation if you have the spare coin. So, see you next time and bye.